Okay, let's talk about multi-cloud. So many of us are running our apps across AWS, Azure, and Google, right? But what if there's one piece of the puzzle, one that's usually an afterthought, that could be holding your entire strategy back? Well, today we're diving deep into the container image registry. We're going to architect a blueprint that finally unlocks the real promise of multi-cloud.
So, you've done all the heavy lifting to make sure your application is portable, that it can run just about anywhere. And that's awesome. But let me just ask you this straight up. Is your image strategy just as portable? Are you still tied to one cloud just because that's where all your images live? If every single deployment, no matter where it is, has to phone home to a single registry, well, you've just created a huge hidden dependency. It's a single point of failure that can bring the whole thing down. Let's fix that.
Here's the problem we see all the time. The dream, the big idea, is to have this super fluid, resilient application that can just dance between clouds. But the reality? We often slam into a wall, and that wall is built out of infrastructure silos. Your container registry is a perfect example of this. It creates something called data gravity. What's that? Well, think of your data, your images in this case, like a planet. The more you pile into one place, let's say AWS, the stronger its gravitational pull becomes. This makes it slower and way more expensive for your apps in Azure or Google to access it. It's this invisible force that creates lock-in, even when you think you're free. So how in the world do we break free from these silos? Well, first things first, we've got to understand the tools we're working with. It's time to meet the native registries from the big three clouds and really put them head to head.
All right, in one corner you've got Amazon's powerhouse, the Elastic Container Registry, or ECR. In the other corner, we've got Microsoft's Azure Container Registry, ACR. And rounding out our main event, Google's Artifact Registry. So how did they really compare when you get down to it?
Now, what's really fascinating here isn't just the checklist. I mean, look, they all offer security scanning right out of the box. They all give you ways to create secure private networks. That's great. But here's the kicker. They all do it their way, using their own proprietary tech. You can't just plug an AWS VPC endpoint into an Azure private link. It just doesn't work like that. And that brings us to the most important row on the slide, replication. Sure, they all have features for copying images around inside their own little worlds, but there is no magic button to sync them all together. What we have here are three incredibly powerful but completely separate islands of technology.
Okay, so since there isn't a magic button, we've got to get a little bit clever. It's time to put on our engineering hats, because if you can't break down the silos, you've got to build over them. It's time to build some bridges. And our bridge? It's built from a really simple but really powerful idea. Image replication. Think of it like a global library system. When a new bestseller arrives at the main branch, you don't make everyone in the world travel there to check it out, right? Of course not. You automatically send copies to every local branch. That is exactly what we're going to do with our container images.
And this, right here, this is it. This is the whole game. This simple act of replication transforms those isolated registries into a single connected fabric that spans all your clouds. All of a sudden, the physical location of your images, it just becomes an implementation detail. Your apps can run anywhere, and they will always have the images they need right there waiting for them.
So why should you actually care about this? Let's make it super real. Increased resilience means that if, say, the entire AWS US East 1 region goes down, your deployments in Azure and Google don't even notice. They just keep working. Reduced latency isn't just some tech buzzword. It means your users in Europe get the exact same fast experience as your users in the US because they're pulling images locally, not from halfway across the world. This gives you true provider flexibility. You are never held hostage by one vendor's pricing or outages ever again. And maybe the best part, your deployment scripts become so much simpler. It's just pull from the local registry. That's it.
All right, so the theory is solid. The why is clear. But what does this actually look like in a day-to-day workflow? Let's pull back the curtain and see how a real-world, unified CI/CD pipeline makes all of this happen.
Okay, let's follow a piece of code on its journey. It all kicks off when a developer pushes a change. Your CI server immediately grabs it, builds that one single perfect container image, and pushes it to your primary registry. We'll say ECR in AWS for this example. Now here comes the magic. Step 3. An automated workflow just springs to life. It scans that new image for any security issues, and once it's cleared, boom, it fires off copies to ACR in Azure and to Artifact Registry in Google. And then the grand finale, step 4, your deployment system gives the green light to all your Kubernetes clusters. And here's the beautiful part. Each cluster just pulls the image from its own backyard, its own local registry. No more slow, expensive cross-continent data transfers. Just fast, secure, and resilient deployments everywhere.
So look, if there is one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Your image strategy absolutely must be as flexible and portable as your application. Having an app that can run anywhere is only half the battle. If your artifacts, your images, are still chained to a single provider, then your flexibility, it's just an illusion.
And all of this leads to a pretty interesting question about the future, doesn't it? Right now, we're the clever engineers building these essential bridges between the big cloud kingdoms. But is this the end game? Are we just going to be bridge builders forever? Or is there something else on the horizon, like a truly universal, cloud-agnostic registry? What do you think is coming next? We'd love to know.